be facilitating the sessions. Let me introduce them to you. We've got Dr. Gangaram Gautam, who's the director of the Open and Distance Education Center and also an associate professor at Tribhuvan University. He has been involved in a lot of designing, managing, and administering online education programs at TU for the last 5 years, and also in the current COVID-19 context. He has done a lot of work with the British Council as well, along with other TU programs, and he's also the co-founder of NELTA and TESSN. Our next presenter, Ms. Priya Iyer. She started her teaching career as a volunteer for Teach India in 2011. She has a graduate degree in business administration and a CELTA. In her current role as an academic manager, she manages academic aspects of various large-scale teacher development projects and extremely challenging contexts like Nepal, for example. I mean, very similar to the East and North India region that she currently works for. She speaks 7 languages and enjoys reading, cooking, and traveling in her free time. We're really excited for the two of them presenting at the session today. I'd now like to hand it over to our presenters to take the session on, please. And I'd request you to check for the presenters to check their microphone before they speak.
Thank you.
Okay? Might be timing again.
Sure. Thank you very much for the lovely introduction, Vaishali. Good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to this webinar today. Like Vaishali mentioned, could you all please put yourselves on mute so that we have a seamless webinar and everybody is able to hear us clearly. Gangaram sir, would you like to have a chat with everyone, and then you can share your screen and we can start.
Right. Can you see my screen, Priyaji?
I cannot,
yes,
not yet.
Yes.
You cannot? Vaishali, can you see
maybe
my screen?
I have network issues.
Yes. Yes, we can see.
Okay, so it is displayed on the screen, Priyaji. So what you could do is you can have your PowerPoint on your device, and then you can signal
I'll
me.
do
I
that.
will move. I will move to the next slide. So I'm on the first screen, home screen now.
Sure.
Vaishali,
So
Vaishali,
welcome everyone.
Sharing China.
Yes, sir, it's working.
All right. Over to you, Priyaji.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so once again, good afternoon, everyone. And without much ado, we're going to go right into the session. So this is another webinar in your Stay at Home, Continue to Learn webinar series. And the title of the webinar is now displayed on your screen. It's Teaching a Course Book Online. And I don't think there could be a more relevant topic for teachers in current times because of the situation that we are in. How to teach online and how to do it very well effectively is a question that plays on most of our minds, isn't it? So, sir, could you please move to the next slide?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm on the second slide now. Hello? 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 Can you hear me?
Sir, Professor, we can hear you.
Yes, but Priyaji couldn't hear me. Priyaji?
Great.
Yes, clearly we are hearing, sir.
Sure.
Okay, Priyaji.
Could you move to the next? Could you move to the next slide, please? The one with the housekeeping rules.
Yes. Okay.
The welcome slide. Sorry.
Welcome slide. I'm on the welcome slide.
Brilliant. So a couple of slides on some housekeeping announcements before we move into the actual session. So the recording of this webinar, the link will be shared. It is being recorded and the link will be shared to your email tomorrow. A couple of important websites here. It will also be uploaded onto these websites. One is the British Council Nepal website. The other one is the NELTA website. You will also receive an email tomorrow with a link to your certificate. What you need to do is put your name into that, type it in, and download and print it. At the end of this webinar tomorrow, you will again receive in your email an evaluation form, which is like a feedback form for this webinar. So please share your valuable feedback so that we can keep improving on our future webinars. Sir,
Yes.
could you please move to the next slide?
Yes, I am on the third slide now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So we have some housekeeping rules. Like Vaishali's been mentioning right from the beginning, if you're not the speaker, please put yourself on mute. And it is recommended that you switch off your video during the presentation. This will save a lot of bandwidth. Microsoft Teams has the chat box function, which most of you are already using really well. So if you have any questions for us, please key them in the chat box. Our colleagues are recording your questions, and we do have about 10 minutes at the end of this webinar for where we'll open the floor to questions. So please make sure any questions that you might have related to the topic, please key them in there. And if you would like to say something, you can use the raise the hand button in case it's something important to share.
Okay.
With that, we move on into the actual session. So
yeah.
The session overview is on your slide. I'm not going to read out all the points mentioned here, but briefly going to go over them. So what are we going to do in this session? You'll be reflecting on the current modes of online teaching. We'll be talking about challenges, and we'll also, obviously, when there are challenges, there are solutions. We'll talk about the solutions related to teaching the course book online. Because of the COVID-19 situation, most of us teachers find ourselves in a very unfamiliar environment these days of having to teach the textbook, the course book, but in an online mode, right? So we will look at ways of how we could adapt the course book activities to provide equally engaging lessons if your students were with you face to face. And we'll also familiarize ourselves with how to provide this input. How could you set up practice tasks? And how could you receive the work back from your students? And how could you give feedback for synchronous and asynchronous lessons? Sir, could we move to the next slide, please?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so my question to all of you, please use the chat box function for this. What are the different modes or tools you currently use to teach online? What are the different tools or modes that you use? Could you please key in your responses in the chat box, please? You can take about 30, 40 seconds to do that. Okay. Sir, I'm unable to see the chat as well, so you will have to help me with that too. I seem to have some network issues.
Right.
So are we getting any responses in the chat?
Maybe since I'm sharing the screen, I think I'm not allowed to see the chat box as well.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Yogendra or Vaishali ji can.
Zoom, WhatsApp, Facebook.
Okay.
I can see it now, sir.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Thank you. Brilliant. So Google Classroom, Zoom, Google Meet, brilliant. Skype, wonderful. So lots of different modes there. Kahoot, wow, that's lovely. They're lovely for quizzes, aren't they? Kahoot. Microsoft Teams, Messenger, brilliant. So were you already very familiar using all these? Or did you start using them because of the current situation? Okay, so we have some options here with us. Of course, most of that you've already mentioned: email and shared documents, social media groups and forums, learning management systems, and live lessons. Brilliant. So, what are the typical challenges that you usually face when teaching this course book online? Can you again use the chat box function and share some of the challenges you face when you teach online before we share some with you? What are the challenges that you face? Yeah, very true. Unstable internet, like I'm facing one now. Electricity. Yes. So I think power and electricity and internet related issues. Wonderful. Rijal's written something about effective content delivery. Very true. Not having effective participation. I can see somebody's written one-way traffic. Ah, interesting. It looks more like a one-way mode. Okay, so it's mostly around participation, preparation, and engagement. And of course, electricity and internet. Sir, have we displayed our ideas?
Yes.
We'd like to share some of the challenges which are mostly overlapping with the ones that you've shared.
Yes.
Lovely. So,
It's on
yes, yes, like you said, we have balance. The challenge is balancing between synchronous and asynchronous. So, synchronous is when you are there live with your students teaching them, and asynchronous is when they are on their own doing a class on their own, doing some task on their own, right? So how do you create that balance? How do you achieve the right balance? Making it as real as students face-to-face experience. So, you've always been used to teaching them face-to-face, being there with them, being present physically. How do you make this online teaching experience as real as possible? Like somebody rightly mentioned, classroom management. So your participation, right, sir?
Yes.
That's a big challenge, how to make sure everybody is participating equally. And I think building rapport is obviously when I'm not physically there, it seems like I'm talking to the screen and not talking to my students. Many times I've felt the same too. And time management, obviously, the biggest concern, whether you're teaching online, offline, time management is always a teacher's enemy.
Right. And
Lovely.
also when and
So
also
today,
when you say
yes, sir.
when you say making it as real as students face to face experience, this is also an issue of pedagogical part, the engagement between the teacher and students and the continuous communication
Absolutely.
that we can exploit in the face to face context. So most of the teachers
Absolutely.
now in my university we are using online mode of education, and as some of the participants have mentioned, this has been only one way traffic. There is not much engagement among the students, there is not much engagement between the students and teacher. So the students listen and teachers just flip through the slides as we are doing now, and then there is no pedagogical rituals that are expected in a classroom context. So that's another challenge for many teachers. Thank you. Over to you, Priyaji.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely, very well said. So it's a mix of pedagogical as well as technological issues that teachers are facing these days.
Right. Okay. Now,
So then you can continue, sir.
right. So now I would like to continue from the challenges that Priyaji had just mentioned into the course book. So if you look at any English language course book, basically the underlying principle, the underlying agenda of anything written on any page of the textbook includes these things. So there are stories, there are dialogues, there are writing exercises, there are crossword puzzles. There is so much in the textbook, but if you minutely analyze them, what are the underlying principles behind those contents given in the textbook? They are either expected to develop listening comprehension skills, speaking ability of the students, reading comprehension, writing ability, acquisition and practicing, reconciling vocabulary items the students have learned and their use in the appropriate context, and the kind of accuracy and fluency part. So, any particular information that you pick from any page of the textbook is geared or is directed to developing either one of them, or more than one combination of more than one of these things in the textbook. So, before you actually start thinking about how you are going to teach that particular chapter, you need to really decide with this page number 38 from grade 4 textbook, what is this content expected to develop in my student? Is it for listening, speaking, reading, writing, vocabulary, or grammar? So what is the particular objective of that particular content given in the textbook? Once you have that idea, I think you can take off very easily. So these are the typical expected language skills and vocabulary and grammar that is expected from the learners. So once that decision is made, I think you can venture now in your journey. So let me give you an example. So I picked up this lesson as it is from new grade 1 government textbook in Nepal. That is chapter 14, and the title is Listen and Sing. And there is a rhyme. So the students are supposed to learn this rhyme in this particular lesson. So if you are in your classroom, you do it the way I have mentioned it in the on the right hand side. But if it's online, how do you give authentic experience of this particular rhyme to your students? Maybe as Priyaji mentioned earlier, because of the network connection, because of the other issues in your devices, students may not hear the kind of melody that you want them to acquire through this particular rhyme. So therefore, what you could do is you can try your way, the way you do it in the classroom. You can play the kind of rhyme. You can read it, you can sing it, you can say it. But in order to give authentic experience of using that particular rhyme, you can direct the students to the resources that are available online. So I have given you the web link here, YouTube link, and it's all recorded there, which you can visualize. So if I am going to show you, sorry, let me show you the page. uh, can you see my screen now, the web page where this Johnny S Papa is?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So if I play this, can you hear the sound?
No, the sound is not audible.
The
So
sound is
while
not.
so just a small point there. When you're sharing your screen, there's a small
Yes.
button that you have to click for sound as well.
Which particular button, basically?
There's a small button called add system audio.
Add system
Yeah,
audio
yeah.
from
When
those
you
three
share your
dots, right?
screen, there is an
Yes.
option for
When
no.
you're when
So
you're
sir, when
sharing the
you share your screen, there is this
Okay.
option says include system audio right at the top, where
Okay.
it throws up the
So
options of desktop window.
I'm sharing the screen now. Where is that button?
Include system audio on your left,
Okay. Uh,
right where it says desktop window, PowerPoint, browse, whiteboard, etc.
okay. Desktop window, PowerPoint browse. Where
So
is that?
just above desktop,
Above desktop.
include
Uh,
system audio, and there is a box there which you need to check. Check
uh, I,
box.
I don't see that actually.
No issues. Maybe we can just talk through the
Yeah. Yeah.
point now, and we can.
Use system audio. I don't see this there. Okay. So never mind. So I will just, can you see my screen now? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to show this. So I will stop it there, and then I will go to the slideshow again, and then so here what we suggest you to do is, before you direct your students to that particular site, you learn how to sing the song or rhyme before the class, and then you can play the rhymes for students a few times from your device, and then you can ask students to say the rhyme while you play it online or the file from your device, and you can give a few minutes for students to practice the rhyme, and then you can ask some volunteers to say the rhyme. So this way you can practice with the students online, and then you can give them the web page, and then the students can practice on their own. So this is just one sample from primary level, because in the audience we have so many primary teachers and lower secondary teachers. Therefore we wanted to pick some samples from primary textbook and also some samples from lower secondary textbook. So this is one example for listening at the lower level with the rhyme. Similarly, we have also picked up another sample lesson from speaking chapter, and then this will be shared by Priyaji,
That's
how
right.
you can exploit this speaking chapter using the online resources. Over to you, Priyaji.
Thank you, sir. So this is a sample lesson from a private school's textbook, because we understand that we have a mix of private and public school teachers here. As you can see on the left side of the screen, the activity is a speaking activity like Ganga sir mentioned. If you were to do it face to face in the classroom, you would have done it as it is mentioned. You would have got your students to work in pairs and complete the questionnaire with each other. And then you would have conducted a normal feedback asking them for the answers, right? However, how do you do it now that you have to do the same thing online? So I've put down instructions on the right hand side where it says you could ask them to share what they had for breakfast or lunch. So when your students join you, we can still do the usual lead in, the presentation, and then the final practice. It can still be done online. You can ask your students what they had for breakfast or lunch, depending on what time of the day the class is. And the students can use the chat function to respond, just like you are using the chat function now. Uh, and then we usually model the questions in the speaking activity for our students, right? When we do it face to face, you can do that in the online class, or you could pre-record your voice with the question models and play it during the online class. We then go on to divide the students into pairs or small groups depending on the numbers you have, and get them to practice asking these questions 1 to 7. They ask the question and take turns to answer it. And for this, please remember you need to share the sentence stem for the answers, because the answers here are given in one word. So they need to use I, like, or something like that that you want them to practice. So for example, for the first one, you might want them to use, so what do you prefer to eat? So you might want them to use I like or something like that.
Yes,
Sir, do you
yes,
want to
please go
move to
ahead.
the next one?
No, 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 no. I mean, you go ahead. Hello?
Sure.
Yeah.
Give me one. Can you hear me?
I can, yes. Once you finish this slide, then I will go to the next
Okay.
slide after you finish.
Sure, sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure. So this is how you can continue with the same lesson. So do you want to add anything to what I've said?
No, that's fine. Brilliant.
And please remember to assign time for this, and also remember when the students come back. So if you're using Zoom, for example, you could put them into breakout rooms in pairs or small groups, assign them the time, set the activity for them, and you can go into those breakout rooms and check or kind of monitor that you would do in a face-to-face class. And then you can ask the students to report back when they come back. So after 3 minutes, they all come back to the actual session, main session, and they report back on what their partner is shared. So for example, if I'm working with Vaishali in a breakout room, I'll come back to the main session and I'll say, Vaishali prefers ketchup, or I would say, Gangaram sir prefers coffee, something similar.
Hello?
And the next bit is about connecting the course book activities with the online practice activities, which will be covered by Ganga sir.
All right, thank you. And just to extend this speaking activity asynchronously, what you can do is I know that I have heard that many schools are now using Microsoft Teams. And if you use Microsoft Teams as a tool for your live classes, Microsoft Teams can have a kind of space for students to meet and talk together. They can um, go to the classroom anytime they want and organize a small group discussion on their own. So even outside the designated class time, if you set up your class in the calendar, the students can click on the calendar, go to the designated space, and then carry out the conversation there on their own before you conduct the class. So there is that option also. Now, uh, connecting the course book activities with online practice activities. So you teach the course book the way Priyaji had just mentioned. How do you take them to the online activities where they can have extended practice? So this is a sample again from grade 5 English textbook, page number 7. This is the book used in government school again. So this chapter talks about indefinite articles, A and N. So you can use the kind of technique that Priyaji has mentioned. You can talk about where A is used, N is used. You can give them some practice in your online classroom. But since you are not meeting them physically, you may not be able to give them as adequate practice as you want them to do. Therefore, what you can do is you can connect them to the online grammar practice activities. So a4esl.org is a site which contains a lot of resources in grammar practice. And these resources are developed by classroom teachers like you, and they have uploaded them there. So just to give you some, sample and synopsis of that. So once you teach this definite or indefinite article, you can designate the students to this site, and then you can ask them to practice this kind of activities there. So this is all about definite and indefinite article. So students can make a guess. This is Bob. वैशाली जी देखिन्छ नि है? देखिया छ?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very good. So this is Bob. He is blank doctor. So students can make a guess, and in order to check, they can click on answer, and then they can see whether they are right or wrong. So this is just one sample. So if I show you the main page, you will see that there is so much, and you can use these exercises in different levels. So this is level 1, level 2, right? And then different aspects of grammar which we cover in our textbook. So if you look on the top, level 1 and 2, level 3 and 4, level 5 and 6, level unsorted. So this is the site in which you have the resources developed and posted by teachers. You can also submit your exercises. So there are ready-made exercises available online. So sometimes it is overwhelming. So don't try to collect so many things which you cannot use, or you are confused where to begin. So pick up a site that suits the purpose for your lesson, and then just pick up one particular exercise and ask the students to do it again and again unless they feel that they are well versed in that particular subject. So choose the appropriate practice activities the way I have shown you, and guide the students how to do that. So tell them that this is for their practice, and ask them not to cheat themselves because it's for them that they are learning English. So convince them that they have to try on their own before they check the answer. So once you build that rapport with the students and you build a kind of trust between you and your students, then I think they will be honest in themselves and they will try their level best in the beginning, and then in order to check whether they are right or wrong, they can then check the answer. So by doing this, you can engage them in practice activities both during the class and also after the class. So that's another example. One more example we wanted to show you is from grade 8 textbook. In grade 8 unit 12 page 122, there is a text called district profile, and there is some information about Dadildora district followed by a small reading comprehension text. So this particular text is for reading comprehension. In reading comprehension also, the focus is more on the scanning skill. Scanning skill means identifying or finding out specific piece of information in the text. For example, if you are waiting for your exam timetable and the exam timetable is published in Gorkhapatra or national media, and the exam timetable could be one full complete page, but you don't read all of it. What you read, you look for the information where your faculty is located, your subject is located, and you look at the date when your exam falls into that timetable. So you identify the specific information that you need. So the purpose of this particular lesson, grade 8 unit 12 page 122 district profile, is to enhance the scanning reading skills among the student. So in order to do that, again, you can design some activities to develop this scanning skill based on the text in your online class, right? And after that, like for example, what you can do, display the information of Dadildora district on screen shortly. So you can have a screenshot of this page and you display this information. Before you display this information, present a couple of questions and display this information shortly, and then remove it and ask the students to answer the question. Show them some questions and ask them to write their answers in their notebook. Display the information again so that the students can check their answer. So you can give them this kind of practice and you can repeat this a few times with different questions. After you do that, we have given you another site here from National Geographic website. There are similar text that gives students a lot of practice in scanning reading exercises. So what you can do, you can take them to this site and then you can ask the students to read the text and attend the online reading exercises there. And also, if you go to that particular site, the text is recorded and then uploaded on a listening file, audio file. So you can ask them to listen to the text and read it together, so that students in our context who are not well versed in reading, speed, reading fluency, if they listen and read together, the comprehension can be better. So also there is a PDF file with additional exercises. So I'll just show you the sample of that particular exercise. So similar to Dadildura, this is the story of oral C. So there is a text, if you see on my screen, there is a short text and there is a glossary and there are keywords. And if you look here, listen to the recording of the entire text is recorded here. So the students can read and listen side by side. So if you want to help them understand it better, so you can use sometimes only the audio file for listening, sometimes only the reading file for reading comprehension. So, and then if you scroll down, there are reading comprehension. Read the article and choose the correct option. So they can respond to these questions and then check by themselves whether they are right or wrong. And if you click here, beginner, elementary, extra activities. So in order to give them further reading practice, like going beyond the text, a little higher level thinking skill, HOTS, higher order thinking skills, you can ask them to do these extra activities so that they can get extended practice through that PDF file exercises on the same text. So by doing this, you can connect the coursebook activities with the online resources, both for teaching purpose and extended practice. So that's what we want to share with you. Now, some more ideas for synchronous online classes. Over to you, Priyaji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So without much ado, I'm going to move into some more ideas to share with you. Like sir mentioned, these were practical lessons from your textbooks, and these have been going on in many online classes, and that's why we chose these to share with you. Uh, but there are some more tips and some more ideas that we wanted to share. So when we're teaching, many of you just had a question about how to teach reading and writing in an online class. So some parts of the text could be assigned for reading beforehand, with the parts that you think the students will be able to manage on their own, the writing work that you think, depending on the level of your students, that they'll be able to manage on their own. You can share it with them before the class, which is they can do it offline and then come back to you, and they can just, you can continue from there. You can build on from what they've already done. Another thing to keep in mind is everyone logs in with their books. So just like they used to come to school, now they'll come to in front of their computer screens or in front of their mobile screens, but they'll have their textbooks. Now this is for the questions that people asked about, are all the textbooks available online? Maybe yes, maybe no. So if you don't have the digital version, you can get your students to open to the particular page number in front of them, and you can still conduct your lesson as you would in a face-to-face classroom. How do you make it more participative? This was one of the challenges that one of the participants mentioned in the chat box earlier on. You could get them to read parts of the text. You could also get them to share answers by unmuting their mics if you have fewer students. You can also get them to give instructions for a particular activity. So, for example, if you've been doing a specific activity repeatedly, you can get them to set up the activity for you. If you have the digital version of the textbook, you could share the digital version too. And of course, with Zoom and with many other sites, portals, you can use breakout rooms. There is a feature called breakout rooms. You can use that for pair work and group work if you have to conduct speaking activities. And it also allows you to jump into one of the rooms at a time. So you can hop into the room, see if everything is going on well, come out of the room, go into another room, check if everything is going on fine. So that way you are also doing your monitoring job well.
Good. Thank you.
And
Now,
just
yeah, go
thank
ahead.
you, sir.
Go
Over
ahead.
to you. Over to you.
Okay. And now some more ideas for asynchronous or offline classes. So these are some of the tips for you. Complete a task in coursebook with the help of family members or friend. So after you do the synchronous activity, online activity, as Priyaji mentioned earlier, you can give them a task from the coursebook which they can complete with the help of their family members or friend. And you can also ask them to organize a small discussion, like the way I mentioned earlier in the classroom in Microsoft Team. And then they can write a small summary of that discussion and they can send it by email or they can upload it to the shared space. So if you are using Microsoft Team for your online teaching, there is an option where the students can upload the audio file in the given space. There is me space and we space in Microsoft Teams, so you can direct your students to that. Also, there are forums. You can create social group in online, and then you can give them questions, and then you can develop the thread. So right, instead of giving one response question, what you can do, you can write a question and you can post your answer, and based on that answer you put another question. So ask the students to do the same. So what will every student will do, every student will answer the question. After answering a question, every student is supposed to ask another question. So this is how you can develop a chain of question and response to the student, so that everybody can contribute to the discussion by asking question and responding to the question asked by somebody else. This is a wonderful way of engaging students online and offline after the class. They can pose the question anytime they want. They can respond to the question anytime they want. And also, you can give them group work, group task, and you can organize that group task virtually. They can connect virtually by email or social group, and then they can do collaborative project and then submit it, the conclusion to the teacher. So in that case, what we must do is we need to provide our students clear set of instruction with the clear deadline when they have to submit for each stage of the group work and project work. And we need to make sure that they have so many other things to do. They need some playtime, fun time. So we need to allow them plenty of time for that. And also, one of the specific, uh, you know, mandatory kind of things for online moderation is that all the students may not be able to comprehend what you have told them in one go. That's why it is extremely essential for the students to provide a model. So if you give them any task, give them a model so that they can look at the model as a reference, and based on the model, they can create on their own. Now, over to you, Preyaji, for general tips for online class. We are almost at the final stage before
Absolutely,
the
yeah,
before the session ends. Yes.
that's right. So I think very quickly, I'm going to go over the final general tips. This could be, this is for your online classes. There is no two ways to planning. You have to plan. If you were in a face-to-face class, you would have planned. It is the same thing. It's just that the mode is different. You're not face-to-face. So plan, plan, and plan. There are no two ways to it. If you find yourself to be talking a lot more, use pair work and group work, and or ask more question and answers. Get into that interaction mode. Um, Vaishali's just shared a link to the webinar from our May series, which talks about how to get people into breakout rooms on Zoom. Focus on contact and communication. Just remember that, again, like I said, this is your online mode of delivery. That is the only thing that has changed. So rapport building, eye contact, communication is very important. Bring in variety. I know it's going to keep you on your toes to think every day about a different way of doing something, but if that's what is working, we'll have to do that. Start small and build out. Do not aim to do too many things in one session. Don't stuff it in. Start with little things and build on those blocks, because it's unfamiliar territory for you. It's unfamiliar territory, remember, for your students also, right? It's okay to change your plan. So sometimes you have a plan, it happens in the classroom too. You're not able to stick to it because of various factors. It's absolutely okay. Don't be too hard on yourself. You are also human. We are all in this in a new situation. So it'll take time for you to adapt to. So don't be too harsh on yourself. Be patient with yourself and your students. Like I said before, they are, both of you are in unfamiliar territory. And if you feel your sessions are too long, remember your students' attention span is limited, very limited. So you should schedule mini breaks in between, maybe a 1 minute break where you could do, or maybe do an energizer or a warmer in between. And always remember, less is more.
Right.
And
Yes.
fine. Yeah, sir,
Yeah.
would you like to go over the
Yeah.
additional resources with
Yeah.
us?
So, yeah, I would like to share my thoughts on this schedule mini breaks in between.
Sure.
You are
Sure.
anything more than 20 minutes.
Sure.
That's extremely important. So do not do the way we did it today, because do not talk more than 3 to 5 minutes as a teacher. After 3 to 5 minutes, you talk, give them something for students to engage. That's what Priyaji meant by mini breaks. So talk 3 to 5 minutes, give them a quiz, give them a question, ask them to write in the chat box. Another 3 to 5 minutes, maybe input from your side as a teacher,
Absolutely.
and then give them a discussion question, ask them to respond. So if you do not do that, then you are not doing online pedagogy. It's a one-way traffic again, as some of you mentioned earlier. So small chunk of input followed by some kind of discussion, engagement, communication with the from the student side. Be careful. So if you do that, then the students love it because they feel a part of this online classroom. So that's extremely important. So that's something that can be a very good takeaway for your online class. And there are tons of resources online, so please do not overwhelm yourself by downloading and then browsing so many things which create confusion. Go to the specific sites. These are some of the very key websites for English language teaching and learning. So teachingenglish.org.uk, learningenglish.britishcouncil.org, FutureLearn, A for ESOL. Maybe there are a couple more which you can use for your purpose. So if you have too many, it's very confusing. So these are some of the sites which you can use for your online resources class when you plan for your teaching. With that, we thank you very much. Thank you, Priyaji, and then it was so nice, working with you. Thank you, British Council, for
Same
connecting
here, sir.
us to lead
Same
this
here.
session. Over to you, the
And
moderator.
we can now open the floor to questions.
True.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Priya and Ganga sir. Yes, we're now opening up for questions. There were already a couple of questions which I will take first. And for the others, I would please request you to continue switching off your videos, okay? Let's not put our videos on as of now. We still need the bandwidth. And if you have any questions, please use the chat box, okay? Uh, I will have to name and shame people who are putting their videos on. So please let's not do that. Okay. Let me go to the questions. So let's start with the first one. This was around the use of videos and songs. So any one of you, it's a question from Tirtha Raj. Is it possible to make all our lessons like this using videos and songs? What do you recommend?
So,
Over to you. Anyone?
Ganga sir, do you want to take this?
sure. Yeah, I mean, what we have shared with you is just a sample. I think as a teacher, you need to be as creative as possible. If it's possible, if you can find relevant resources, why not? Of course, yes. But if it's difficult, maybe you create your own video or audio or your own exercises. So do not consider the materials that we have shared as the prescription. So these are some of the alternatives that we have demonstrated. So you as a teacher, think of what you can do from your own experience. You are the gem. The gem is within you, and you can unfold and unpack that creativity. So if possible, yes. If you can find the relevant resources, yes. Maybe if not, maybe find the alternative. What do you think, Priyaji?
Uh, can't agree more with you, sir. Like you said, these are only suggested activities that we've shared. But if your lesson requires and if your lesson deems that you share an audio or a video, go all out and do it. If you feel there is no need for it, it's like sir said, you are the one who's going to decide, right? So choose appropriately.
Thank you. Let's move to the next question. It's probably fine. It's from Naveen. The question is from Naveen. It's fine if you're using Google Meet, Zoom, or Team platforms, but this is not possible for us, and we have been using Google Classrooms only. Is it possible to make Google Classroom interactive?
They
Any
have
ideas?
they have definitely
Sure.
added more features now in Google Class also. Initially, no, that was just for the meeting purpose, but now they know that people are using it for pedagogical purpose. So many things have been added. So if you update your software in your device, it's possible. No, Priyaji?
I agree. Yeah, they've recently added a lot of features which have made the classroom very interactive. So yes, Naveen, it's possible.
Okay. Let's move to the next one. Tunka has asked, which platform is better to teach a class online, Zooms or Teams?
So for me, it's team because Zoom is meant for meeting. So if you are organizing staff meeting discussion among your colleagues, teachers, learning community, a group, professional development group, Zoom is better because it has got certain features. You can see everyone there. It's more of there is a human kind of feeling. But Team is especially designed for classroom purpose. That's why it integrates lots of pedagogical feature. And another advantage of Teams, Microsoft Teams, is you can integrate a learning management system easily with the Microsoft team, not with the Zoom. So like learning management system like Moodle, you can integrate Moodle in the team and then you can use the online pedagogy there. So for me and my university experience, Microsoft team is better for classroom. Zoom is good for meeting purpose. Priyaji, how about in India?
Sure, sir. I think many people have got used to Zoom here now. However, I think, like you rightly mentioned, the integration of the learning management systems is better on Teams, is what I also feel. So if you want to integrate another learning management system into this, I think it's better to use this one. But again, both sir and I aren't endorsing either. We're
Right.
not, just wanted to clarify, we're just sharing our views on it. This is not an endorsement of either of the platforms.
Not at all. Not at all. But for your information, since we have done it in Tribhuvan University, if you want to use Team in
Absolutely.
educational institution, they will give you free. That's another advantage.
Yes.
If you're a school principal and head teacher, they want to use Microsoft Team in your educational institution, contact the team guys in Nepal and then they will come and install this application and you can use it for free.
Okay.
That's a highlight then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Okay, let's move to the next one. There are a couple, and I don't even know if we'll have time to take all of them. Hama has asked, are these techniques that you shared only suitable for English subjects, or can we use it for other subjects as well?
I'll take this, sir, and you can add on to this.
Yeah.
Uh, as far as I know, I think you can use this across subjects. Obviously, the reference sites that we've shared mostly pertain to English. You can look up sites which are there for other subjects and do similar kind of activities because the techniques, I think, still remain the same, irrespective of whether you're teaching a language or whether you're teaching science or mathematics. You would elicit, you would give them some pair work, group work, would want them to speak to each other and arrive at a conclusion for a mathematical problem. So
Right.
the techniques surely remain the same. Your reference sites might change. So you could refer to different reference sites, but I don't think it should be a problem to use the same tasks and techniques.
Right. And some of these online tools, they have also given you the facility to write on the board. If you look at Microsoft Team, there is a whiteboard. If you use that whiteboard, you can write
Yes.
anything that you want from your finger or touch pen. So there is actually you can teach mathematics the way you teach it in the physical classroom by actually solving the problem on the whiteboard on a screen. So absolutely you can use these techniques in all the subjects across the board, no doubt.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to the next one. Sanjeev says, probably this is a question for Ganga sir, which is because it's more relevant to the Nepali context. We are discussing here about teaching a course book online, but the very question is the availability of the course book itself. This is to be resolved before we move further, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Very good. I was, people from Curriculum Development Center called me a few days back, and then now they are working on uploading the teacher's guide online so that teachers can use them as the reference materials to teach students online. So absolutely. All the books are online now. So if you go to the CDC, Curriculum Development Center's website, all the textbooks are online, the curriculum is online, and most of the teachers' guidebook are online, and they are uploading more reference materials for teachers online. So I think things are coming. As Priyaji said, I think we need to have patience for a while because this is so unanticipated, and all of a sudden that happens. So I think they are preparing towards finding the solution to it. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe the next one, Priya, you can take this. Jonas
Sure.
asks pedagogy and technology. The latter is problematic in the context of Nepal or maybe India as well. When we consider one, the other is left. Which one do we actually focus more on? So is it pedagogy or technology?
That's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yes.
Asking me to rate one over the other. I would say both need to be balanced out. I agree that it's a similar context. I think Nepal and India share a very similar context in terms of technological glitches, especially in the rural areas where our teachers are from. And I can completely understand that, while we talk about teaching online, it's still a long road ahead. But like I said, and like Ganga sir also said, these are unprecedented times. Nobody really expected all of this to happen. So I think maybe this has paved the way for the future. You never know. So learning from this, maybe we will move into a completely online world where it will improve. I would say try and balance it out. Whatever time you have, you can then, in contexts where you do not have technological support, you can set up offline tasks more, get your students to get back to you, report back to you, and give them feedback also offline. I know it's a little more time consuming, however, it's still doable.
Okay.
Sir, would you like to add something?
I agree. Yes. No further
Okay.
comment.
Thanks.
I think we will have time only for two questions. Okay, so the second last question for today. How legal
Sure.
is it to use YouTube videos for teaching online?
I think they are in the public domain. So as long
I
as
would,
the source is authentic and usable, and that gives some kind of, if that serves the pedagogical purpose, so that's open source public domain material. So I don't know much about the legal issues, but I don't think any problem there.
Okay.
I agree with you, sir. Just make sure, I think, to be safe, uh, mention the source always. That's a
Right.
good thing to do. So
Right.
even if there are some issues, you wouldn't be trapped. So
Mhm.
always acknowledge the source.
Right. Okay. So let's move to the last question then. Gopal asks, how much can a teacher be free in order to accommodate the contents as suitable for online pedagogy? Should we be free and selective based on the textbook contents?
Sir, based on the Nepal context, would you like to answer this one?
I think when you teach English, you are teaching language. So I think you have a freedom. You have adequate freedom to play around as long as you are focused on the objectives of the curriculum, the skills that you want to develop, the vocabulary items that you want them to learn. So if you are within that territory, you have a complete liberty. But also check the evaluation system. If the evaluation system is guided by the textbook, then you should also integrate the textbook elements. If the examination is solely based on the skills, not on the content given in the textbook. You have more liberty there. Going back to the YouTube security issue again, be sensitive to the cultural elements displayed in on those YouTube video and things. So that's extremely important. Make sure that that does not offend in any way to any ethnic community, any age group people, any kind of racial, kind of stuff. That's extremely important. So the liberty, I think you have a full liberty if the skill is the focus. If the textbook is the focus, I think you should integrate the textbook elements also. Priyaji?
Agree with you, sir.
Thank you so much. I think we only have time for that many questions for today. There were a lot of questions there, which I didn't take because it was more related to contents that we've already covered in the previous webinars. For recordings of the previous webinars, I would encourage all participants to either go to our British Council YouTube page or to the NELTA website, where all the links to the previous webinars are kept for you to refer to. Okay, the recording of this webinar will also be put up on our YouTube page, and you will receive the link on that email as well tomorrow. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you, Ganga sir. Thank you, Priya. I think that was a wonderful session. At one point, we had over 250 participants. I'm sure it was very difficult for Bhogendra and Radha to manage the participants. But yeah, I think a very important topic, and I think we covered a lot of content, and it must have been very useful for everyone who attended the session. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vaishali.
Thank you, Ganga sir. Thank you, Priya.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Radha. Thanks, Bhogendra.
Thank you to all.